Futures. I'm Dan Celia. Excuse me. It's great to be back. Friday morning, it's Rapid Fire Friday. We're going to try to take as many calls as we possibly can. 888-589-8840. That's what we do on Fridays, and we will do that again. We had some economic numbers come out that I think are kind of interesting, so we'll take a look at those. Stock futures, by the way, right now are in negative territory, primarily due to one of the economic numbers, but nevertheless, stock futures again in negative territory. So right now, it doesn't mean this is the way it's going to end up for the day. We know that. We've watched these markets long enough to understand. I hope all of you have seen that as whatever I talk about, whatever kind of shape the markets are in, by the time we go off the air, it does not necessarily mean much. Although, in the last few days, it's been relatively consistent with where it starts in the morning as opposed to where it ends in negative territory. So, again, we'll see. But right now, everything's in negative territory. There is apparently, the headline is a couple of things on the stock futures. And, of course, you know the Dow ended down 121 yesterday. And one of the things, of course, that they are citing as the headline is the fiscal cliff. President Obama's comments on the fiscal cliff. That's one of the reasons that apparently they are saying is in focus, as some of the financial markets and analysts put it, that the fiscal cliff is in focus. Also, as I stated before the election, that if there is a win, an Obama win, it is very likely that attention is going to turn to Europe. That is exactly what has happened. So it looks like the markets here in America are worried or watching Europe a little bit more than they have in the past. It also looks like Europe and Asia are watching the U.S. markets, the so-called fiscal cliff, and tax issues that we're going to be faced with next year very closely, because they know that's going to impact growth in America. And if growth in America is impacted, obviously it's going to impact their ability to get out of the recession they're in. The big question is, could we go back into recession? If we go over the fiscal cliff, count on it. It's almost a definite. I think we are going to go over the fiscal cliff. The question is for how long. It is not likely that anything's going to come along here that is going to help in the lame duck session of Congress. It looks like right now, Republicans are digging their heels in on tax increases, as they probably should. The question is, how long will they be able to do that before they compromise? Keep in mind, as we talk about the fiscal cliff, some of the things that we know we are facing. For instance, a $600 billion cut in defense spending, which it could equate to 4.5% on GDP over the next 5 years. So that's what it could equate to. That is going to dramatically impact a lot of things. Boeing sent out layoff notices yesterday. Looks like Lockheed Martin's just a matter of time before they're going to have to do it. And they're talking about upwards of 100,000 layoffs. If we look at the defense industry all the way around, speaking of defense industry, of course, one of the news pieces came out last night is the fact that the Obama administration decided until after the election to release some information that Iran had fired on successfully some of our drones. And, of course, that is, they said it was classified information. Until after the election, then it became unclassified. Again, it's more about politics. But leading to the whole defense issue is that I'm not sure what this administration does not understand about strength, peace through strength. We're not going to have peace through negotiation. We're not going to have peace through compromise and weakness. We're not going to have peace through trying to get everybody to love us. We're not going to have peace through apologies. We're not going to have peace on what now might be one-on-one conversations with Iran, which we haven't had one-on-one conversations with Iran since late 60s and 1970. But we're going to try that. We're going to try that. We tried that with North Korea so they wouldn't get a nuclear weapon. That didn't work out real well. But we're going to try that anyway, because we've got an administration that doesn't understand that if you want peace, if you want negotiating power, then it's going to have to be about military might. But we are cutting defense program that's part of the fiscal cliff, not to mention the expiration of the Bush tax credits, which is going to take us back to what everybody has been talking about in the campaign, everybody on the liberal side, about getting us back to the success that we had under the Clinton administration, and going back to the Clinton administration tax rates, because they are looking at the purely on the revenue side. I don't have a problem with that. You want to go back to Clinton? Let's do it. Let's go back. Let's all go back to the Clinton tax rates. No problem. Great idea. Let's do it. Here's the question. Can we then go back to the Clinton era spending? So let's take the spending back to what the Clinton era was. Let's take the attitude about spending that we had during the Clinton era. Remember, we had a Republican-controlled Congress, and we had Newt Gingrich that already had shut the government down one time. That is exactly what drove Bill Clinton to the center. I know we don't want to talk about that. We forget that, but that's what happened. So if we're going to go back to Clinton era tax rates, let's go back to Clinton era tax or spending budgets as well. Let's contract the size of the government. Let's get the government back to the same size it was during Bill Clinton. So now you're talking about raising taxes, and that's part of this tax cliff that we're all going to be faced with. By the way, there is a groundswell. Nobody's talking about this. I talked about it yesterday. I did a little bit more research on it last night. And the fact of the matter is, we've got a situation where we've got now 90 CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, part of the S&P 500, I should say, 90 CEOs that have joined hands about pushing the government to adopt the Simpson-Bowles. Now, Simpson-Bowles will, in fact, take us back to some of the Clinton-era tax rates. Now, I don't have we're talking about a potential $4 trillion cut in the deficit if we were to adopt that, and I think that's what these corporate executives are thinking about. It would bring some certainty and could, in fact, cause the rating agencies to back off a little bit, and certainly is going to give them some cause to not necessarily to upgrade us, to get our ratings back to AAA, but not put us on warning and on notice that we're likely to see by February if we raise the tax ceiling again, or the deficit ceiling again. So it's great. I like the cuts that are incorporated in Simpson-Bowles. I said that when I read it the first go around. But I said the 2 days after it came out, I said the problem I have with it, and I did say this, I'm willing to accept it, but the problem I have with it is that it also includes talk on the revenue side. And I got a problem with that because it leaves an impression that we could possibly have a revenue problem in this country. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. It's not a revenue problem. And the thing I don't like about Simpson-Bowles, look, I'm not a sold out supply side economics guy. Never have been. I'm more of a Reagan supply side economics. Reagan knew that, yes, we got to make these cuts in government, no doubt about it. But at the same time, can we get a little revenues going? We cannot get revenues increased. We cannot raise taxes on people. This is the issue that we're going to be faced with in 2013, folks. And unfortunately, we have been dealt a hand as far as the GOP that we're going to have to deal with, and hope that they have the guts to fight this and stand firmly on it, regardless of the pain that it's going to cause. I have my doubts about that. But we got to go with the hand we've been dealt, other than the fact that we can encourage them to do the right thing and to stand firm. But the fact of the matter is, we cannot have anything that is related to taxes and increasing taxes. And remember, Obamacare is going to have an effect, a huge impact on raising payroll taxes and other kinds of fees and taxes that we're all going to have to participate in. But it's one thing to have some revenue side increases when you have a growing economy. You cannot have an expanding government. Now, look, if we don't do anything, government is going to expand because of Obamacare. We have agencies that Obamacare calls for, that we have got to create new bureaucracies in order to manage Obamacare, 102 of them. And so we're going to have an increase in the size of government. We've got no talk about cutting or contracting any part of government other than defense. So we cannot increase revenues in a GDP environment that is contracting, that in my opinion should be in recession and is in recession. I know the definition of a recession. I understand that. So from a technical standpoint, we're not in recession yet, from a technical standpoint. But my argument would be that we are in a recession because we have a shrinking GDP, and anything below 2.4% is shrinking, because anything below 2.4% is not keeping pace with population growth. Now, they can adjust the labor participation rate and other numbers to deflate what is happening in population growth, but that's a misrepresentation. It's smoke and mirrors, and it is not reality. Eventually, reality catches up. So that's the kind of situation. That's the kind of situation that we have. And if we attempt to continue to raise taxes, to go off the fiscal cliff, and not do anything about it, not address the issues of the cost increases that we're facing through Obamacare, not addressing the tax increases and how that's going to impact. Listen, under this socialist Marxist regime, it is true. Yes, we know that under those kinds of regimes, we know what history has shown us. We know the mentality or the ideology of the administration, and that is to make sure that the rich share the wealth. We know that. We understand that that the rich have to pay their fair share according to this administration. And we know that it's perfectly okay in their ideology that the rich become a little poorer. But you cannot accomplish that. It's impossible without the poor getting poorer and without the middle class losing wealth as well. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. It's going to be a sinking tide that is going to lower all the boats.